All right, welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum. Today is Thursday, March 1st. My favorite time of every month because I get to show this report. This is off of royspencer.com. February's numbers are in. Last month we were down to a plus 0.26 degrees Celsius. February is also down. It dropped to plus 0.20 degrees Celsius. So if we look back 2 years from February of 16, we have dropped a 0.68 over the last 2 years in the lower troposphere, the lower atmosphere anomaly that Roy is keeping track of here. So I show this every month, even when the numbers aren't so favorable for what I'm trying to prove. A few months ago, we shot up to plus 0.63. I was kind of shocked it went that high, but since that little surge and peak that we had, we've dropped over 40 points now, and that's just within the last 6 months. And I mentioned here in the blog today on grandsolarminimum.com that we're starting to see this trending downward. And I know if you go back to 79, it looks like it's going up. But if you start from February of 2016, things are definitely on the decline. And only time will tell. And as time goes on, we'll continue to see these results. Yesterday, overheard a forecast for the West Coast and the Northwest. As much as 6 feet of snow can fall on California and the Sierra Nevada mountains. So at the same time that we're experiencing this West Coast storm, and I'll get to the nor'easter here in a minute. Also wanted to bring an update about the Siberian Express. It did claim at least 24 lives in the region. 9 people passed away in Poland in the past 4 days, 4 from France, 5 in Lithuania. I know I'm pronouncing that wrong. 3 in Chechnya, 2 in Romania, and at least 1 in Italy. So these were most of these deaths were reported as the homeless and elderly. Also, an article that I put up last night is I titled it "Awakening." Mari did a little research. The earthquake video that she put out that had the 7.5 earthquake in Papua New Guinea. Now, I looked at Mari when this earthquake went off, and we zoomed in on the earthquake map, and I said, is that a volcano? Miles away from it, just south of it. And we found out that yes, it is. There's a volcano that's been extinct now for over 200,000 years. And now scientists are saying that this volcano is beginning to awaken again. So that's something that we're definitely going to keep our eyes on. As you know, this area has been riddled with earthquake activity. But there's some concern now with that 7.5. And do you remember the number of aftershocks that that region has seen since that 7.5?
I mean, pretty much all these orange dots right here.
So we're at least in the hundreds, probably.
It's loads.
So,
and the report that the watchers put out says it's smoking. So this isn't just like, oh, maybe it's a volcano. This is actually, we are witnessing smoke coming from this volcano. You know, the one article said extinct. Probably the proper word is dormant. It is awakening. So it's just interesting to watch these volcanoes en masse sort of start waking up.
There it is right there in the top. As we speak, we are seeing smoke building up at the top of the mountain. We had never seen obviously they've never seen this, but what is it? Basavi as a volcanic mountain, but now it's showing signs. Wow. So definitely something we'll keep a look at, and thanks to the sites like the Watchers, where we can follow stories like this, because mainstream media hasn't said a word about this. And I would think this would be a top story in my book. A 200,000 extinct volcano is awakening.
Well, that earthquake that hit did kill. I don't remember the number now. It was either like 16 or 19. Killed people. This is in a very rural area, so the news About the damages is pretty much slow going because it is out there so rurally. But, you know, some of the heads of that area are calling it catastrophic, the damage from the 7.5 earthquake. And I will do another follow-up on that as I, you know, have some time and I'm able to dig through the information. But the people of this island were severely affected by this particular earthquake. And now on top of that, they have this volcano waking up.
Looking at some space weather stuff here, we've got our solar wind speeds just above 550 kilometers per second with a density of around 3. That's actually pretty thick for wind speeds to be that high. KP indices are quiet right now. I think we're sitting somewhere in the 2s. There's the sunspot, AR 2700, and no word of any kind of solar flares or any action from that. Yesterday we did see a week's flux increase, and as high as a B class, but nothing more than a B class. And as you see here now, these solar wind speeds on this ACE here is showing us that they have actually dropped down to the mid 300s. So our peak was at 550 last night, and we are seeing it steadily drop now. We are sitting around 370, 380 kilometers per second. So a quiet solar wind. That's why the density was so low. All right, that makes a little more sense. And looking at the SDO, we don't see any new corona holes forming. Just the one in the northern region there, but nothing that should affect Earth. Actually, it's pretty quiet right now as far as corona holes goes. Sunspots, 2700 is moving away from Earth. So our sun is now settling down. If we had a series of small corona holes and minor sunspots, but it looks like it's starting to quiet down a little bit. And I want to go ahead and, TSI real quick. We've broke it down a little bit. We'll show you the last 3 readings of 1361.071, and that was on the 19th. Then on the 20th, it goes to 1361.077. Again, these are minor increases, and then another minor drop, 1361.073. So as of February 21st, TSI reading is still above the 1361 mark, but it's hanging on by a thread. Wanted to give that update as well. And looking at our tropical tidbits, here is our current storm system right now that's going to link up with a nor'easter. Now they've named it, I think this is funny, but the name of the storm is Riley. As you know, my last name is Riley, so maybe I can make a claim.
What have you done, Jake?
What have I done?
What are you doing?
They've named the storm after me.
What are you up to?
So anyway, looking at tropical tidbits here, and this is the movement of this storm right now. This is as of Friday morning. I mean, look at the intense snowfall that we're seeing right here, right above the Ohio, right into Toledo, into Michigan, going into Cleveland. Lots of moisture from this low pressure system coming up from the Gulf, and then it's going to link up with this system out here in the Atlantic. So as we go through Friday, loads of snow, and we are in western New York. That's the only reason why I'm focusing in on here, folks. But they keep upping the snow totals every time I look. As you see, through Friday, heavy snow throughout all of western New York, and all the way through upstate New York through Friday evening, and still light snow as of Saturday morning all the way through New York. And the East Coast, now the coastal, like Massachusetts and all that, and New Jersey, you guys are going to see more storm surge and more flooding. But look at this. On the 3rd, Saturday night, there is snow, according to GFS, is reaching to the coastal region. So you're going to have the same situation that we had with the last nor'easter that bombed out on us. We got coastal flooding, and then the temperatures dropped, frozen waters with snow. That's what happened when we had the last nor'easter earlier in the year. Now, there are people saying that this system will bomb out to as low as 850. I'm not seeing that here on the GFS. The GFS is taking it to right around the 975 mark, 972, and that's offshore. And this thing just continues to hover in the Atlantic, and we're scot-free. Sunday it gets quiet, but watch out. Four Corner states, more snow developing in Colorado mountains, throughout Colorado and Kansas. And like all year long, the Northwest and the upper plains has been pounded all year long with snow, especially the last 3 weeks. It's been steady and consistent. But once again, here comes another low pressure system midweek next week through Tuesday through the same region that already has flooded waters. And now the areas that have snow on the ground here in the Northeast will see a little bit more snow added to that total as temperatures stay just cold enough for the Northeast to get snow. And it's now a little bit of an impressive system that develops again as it moves off to the Atlantic. We'll have to keep our eyes on this one as well. As the low pressure on this, the bars are tight on that. Let's hope that nothing changes in the jet stream that keeps that system hovering around the Northeast again for part 2. So with this updated GFS report, again, the same areas are continuing to get snow and rain over and over again. March is going to be a stormy month, and this is just taking us to the middle of the month. As you see, we are just inundated with rain and snow chances for almost everyone. There's maybe 1 or 2 days where we see some dry weather throughout the country, but for the most part, we've got at least 2 to 3 storm systems that will be affecting us in the coming weeks. But I wanted to go to some of the where was the slides that you had set up?
Oh, I got that.
I wanted to show those off real quick as well.
I think I put them on here. Let me cycle through them for you.
All right, good. So here's a map. Now let's go back to Nor'easter Riley here. This is a map of all the winds that we're going to have from this storm. 60 to 80 miles an hour on the coastal regions from Boston all the way through D.C. Might move that out of the way a little bit. Thank you, dear. Yeah. And then, you know, most of northern Pennsylvania and western Pennsylvania, eastern Pennsylvania, you guys are going to get anywhere from 40 to 80 miles an hour wind gusts. And then through most of western New York and middle upstate New York, we're looking at gusts between 40 and 50. Let's go to the next one. There is the worst of this as far as coastal risks go, and you're seeing it. Boston, New Jersey, D.C., you guys, that's a long area of coastal flooding, beach erosion, and offshore waves of 20 to 30 feet. This has played down a little bit. Thor News, I want to give him credit for this because he has been kind of the whistleblower for this storm for the last 7 days. He's been talking about this system. It's going to be building up on the coast, and whether or not this man has his weather facts correct every time, time and time again, Thor does raise the alert for certain storms, and rightfully so. And this is one that everyone should be paying attention to. He did make a claim that he thinks this one's going to be worse than Sandy. That remains to be seen, but there is a huge enough area that can be affected. And I'd have to go back and look it up, but the waves they're calling for on this storm is going to be about 36 feet peak, and that's going to be near Boston. So imagine seeing 36 feet waves crashing into the coast. I do say that's hurricane strike type waves there. Go ahead and slide it into the next one here. Again, the storm surge is going to be about 3 to 5 feet. Waterfront damage, these are all the areas they expect to see the worst of it. 60 to 80 mile an hour. Now here's an interesting map here. The snowfall for Friday into Friday night. Now this is not counting Saturday, as the new GFS models are showing this snow is going to linger around a little bit into Saturday. But into Friday night, if you live in New York or Western New York, you're a shoe-in right now for at least a foot. And now they're saying there's going to be local areas of 18 inches of snow, which I can contest for this, is that this morning they did up the total amount from 6 to 10 to 8 to 14 in western New York. So parts of western New York and central New York are expected to see around 18 inches of snow. Now this snow line is also being a little bit more generous, as yesterday some of the coastal states weren't seeing this snow at all. It was all rain. So it's going to be really interesting to watch this storm develop and see how much changes. Now, here is the probably worst part about this storm. The power outages. The dark purple is most likely, which to me sounds like you're going to lose your power. And the pink is, it's a possibility. And a possibility to me is more like a 50-50 chance. But when I see this dark purple, it looks like you're going to be losing power. Now, I can understand why they've got most of New York in this most likely area. Our ground is saturated right now, and we just had a week of high winds earlier. I'm sorry, a couple days ago we had a high wind event. So if anything, it's possible with the saturated ground already that the previous high wind event we had is loosening things up in the ground. Top it off with possible 40 to 60 mile an hour gusts here in western New York with more saturated ground and driving snow, heavy wet snow on tree limbs and power lines. This is what they're talking about as far as most likely why the power is going to be going out. Saturated grounds, it'll be easier for these trees to fall over. I know yesterday Mari and I were out driving and we saw tree crews everywhere trimming back tree limbs that were hanging over power lines that were getting close to it. So I think most of our officials are taking this storm warning pretty seriously. And actually on AccuWeather.com I was going to show a quick video about the stern warning, but I've decided against that. I think we pretty much got everything out here as far as what we need to know about this storm. But if you live in these states, you guys need to prepare if you haven't already. Hopefully you're stocked with some supplies, because if you're going to be without power over the next several days, and who knows, it may be just a couple of days, it could be a week. But the only good news about losing your power in the wintertime, if you have gas in your home, you can still heat your home. There's other ways to heat your homes with gas source. And also, if you've got, like we're going to have, close to a foot on the ground, it's not going to be hard for us to throw our frozen goods and put them in the snow outside, or throw them in a cooler and put some snow. So you mean we basically right now we're set to where if you have foods in the fridge or the freezer, temperatures in this part of the woods is going to stay in the mid-30s for the next several days. So even if we are out of power, pack your food in the snow might be kind of funny to you, but at the same time kind of smart, and it might keep you from having to waste food by throwing it away by keeping it in the snow. I know that's what I plan to do if the power goes out over here. I think we're gonna move the freezer out to the backyard.
Well, we had that freak October storm. I think it was 2014 or something, and it knocked down the power lines. Imagine all the trees full of leaves. You have this crazy ice and snowstorm. It knocked down the trees, which knocked down the power lines. I was out of power for like a week, and I wound up using coolers, putting them outside for my refrigeration, essentially. And lucky enough at the time, I had a wood-burning fireplace. The gas, we got gas, so we're good now. If the power goes out, I'm pretty confident. So, right now with this storm, we here in Buffalo, we're preparing for a power outage. So, if you don't have candles and flashlights and all that, and you're in these affected areas, just get ready, be prepared, have them out, ready to go, just in case. Better to be safe than sorry.
Yep. And we were talking earlier, when are we going to see the last hoorah from winter? And I'm not sure if this is going to be the last one, but man, we have been blessed for the last 2 or 3 weeks since we had the last snow, and that was about a foot on the ground. So, hopefully this is Old Man Winter's last punch. I've seen enough snow this last year that I've seen in my entire life. And that's no exaggeration. The last time I checked, we were sitting around 60 inches of snow, and that was in early January. So I'm sure that number has grown. But yeah, like Mari said, all you can do is prepare. And these areas, they're not playing around. They're pretty much saying you guys are going to lose your power in these certain areas here. And here is the snow map once again. Pretty good section of the Northeast is going to get dumped on, that's for sure. Trying to find, just coasting through. Okay, good. All right, so Mari and I, we definitely plan to be back live at some point, maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow morning early, or maybe late tonight, just depending on how this storm does impact. And if we have power, hopefully we do have power. Maybe if push comes to shove, we'll have our backup batteries for our phones charged up. I know I have a Mophie case, so I'll have 2 batteries basically on my phone, and maybe we'll do a live update, a short one, to kind of report if the power does go out, how much snow has fallen, because this is going to be an interesting storm. And I think Mari and I, we probably should capture some footage on this. If they're predicting this wind and the amount of snow to fall and how heavy it's going to be, I mean, wouldn't this almost qualify as a blizzard? Pretty close.
I am not sure.
The good news is is that it's happening overnight. So most of the people are going to be inside. But the bad news is the peak of this storm, especially for Western New Yorkers, is going to be in the commute in the morning tomorrow. And I'll be honest with you. I hope the school districts do the right things right now. With as much snow as is forecasted and how it's going to fall, I hope they cancel school tonight for people here in Western New York, because I know you guys are used to this kind of weather. But when you have your weather alert saying it's going to be next to impossible for travel during the morning commute, I certainly don't want my child on a school bus out there with the rest of those crazies trying to get to work on time, not giving themselves enough time to get there. So now they're running late and they might be using excessive speeds. I'm a worry when it comes to my children, just like all parents. So hopefully these states heed the warnings and do the appropriate things to help keep our children safe. Martin, you have anything else you'd like to say?
That's it. Just be prepared and stay safe, guys. We'll keep you updated.
Yeah, we'll try to stay in touch this week and kind of give you an idea if it had as much punch as it said it was going to have. And like I said, Storm Nor'easter Riley has made official naming this morning, and we'll see how dangerous Riley becomes. All right, we'll talk soon, guys.